It's time for Access the Experts from the University of Nebraska at Omaha with your host, Brandon Axamit.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Access the Experts on News Channel Nebraska, where every Tuesday and Thursday, the University of Nebraska at Omaha faculty members answer today's questions facing our state. Now today we have the pleasure of hearing from Dr. Tamara Williams, who is an assistant professor of educational leadership at UNO. So Tammy, today's question is, what are charter schools and why do people talk about them so much?
Thank you, Brandon, for that question. And I'm happy to talk about what are charter schools and why do people talk about them so much. So charter schools have a lot of different definitions. The most common definition is a public charter school. Public charter schools have characteristics such as the use of tax dollars so that families do not need to pay tuition to attend. A public charter school often has a certain niche that attracts families and students into that space. A public charter school typically does not have an entrance exam, so all types of learners can attend. And it's often run by a school district, a college, or a nonprofit. Now, there are other rules that would need to outline the nuances of charter schools, and that would need to be defined in state legislation. At this time, Nebraska does not have any state legislation or rule that governs the expectations of charter schools. Now, the second part of the question, why do people talk about charter schools so much, is really interesting. It speaks to our shared and common interest of having high quality educational experiences for all of our students. K-12. We know that the students in our classrooms today are our leaders for the future. And if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that we can reconceptualize our traditional ways of doing things, which includes our traditional ways of doing K-12 education. Now, whatever that restructured approach, that new alternative to education, whether it's charter schools or another option, there's some considerations that need to be thought through. For example, can this alternative way of considering education truly be given to scale? For example, in Nebraska right now, we have over 240 public school districts. Any charter legislation would need to make sure that it is applicable and accessible to all students in the state of Nebraska, corner to corner, not just one little sub pocket over here in the corner of the state. And if we look to outside of the state for examples of charter schools or other restructured options, are the details in those other states truly applicable to our Nebraska and local context? Additional considerations such as use of tax dollars and additional burden to the taxpayer, teacher certification, oversight and accountability, open access for all learners, and even small details like transportation really have implications on the overall cost of alternative forms of education and if those alternative forms truly are open and accessible for all learners. Now, in Nebraska right now, families have many choices for their educational experience for their students. Students can be homeschooled, students can attend private school, students can attend public school. And if there's capacity in that other public school district, families can option their students into another public school district. And all of these choices are outlined in Nebraska legislation and rule. At this time, Nebraska does not have legislation that outlines the nuances of charter schools in our state. The most recent legislation was back in 2017. LB 630 was introduced and not passed in 2017. And if you'd like to see a copy of that, please follow our UNO Educational Leadership Department on Twitter at UNOEDL. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about charter schools and why people talk about them so much.
Access the Experts, presented by the University of Nebraska at Omaha. If you have questions, submit them on our website. Then join us every Tuesday and Thursdays at 6:46 a.m. and p.m. while we answer your questions.